All right. I like feedback. So, thoughts on this last hour? Whoa. You win $100. Okay? It's everybody take out your wallets and let's each of you give two. No. What did you hear? I want to know. I know what I said, but what I said and what you hear can be two different things. So I want to know what you heard, what your spirit heard, and just get some feedback from you guys. Yes. Good. God appreciates multi expressions of worship. Yes. Good. And again, understand, it's not so much important that I express it so that I look like I'm doing worship right. It's important that my expressions happen because each one unveils more of who God is. Does that make sense? So again, if worship is what I'm doing as opposed to what I'm responding to, if you never see God as an intimate God, if he's always big and scary, worship will always be expressed as awe. And when people rejoice, you go, that's flippant. Which happened. I got saved in 1973, and the Jesus movement had been going on during that time, a few years before. And let me tell you something, we still got yelled at from older people that we were disrespectful and flippant because we would dance. And as Jeremy said yesterday, I remember when we put drums on the stage. Oh my goodness. I thought a couple ladies were going to have a coronary. We set the drums up, and then you know what the only way that they would give us permission to put drums on the stage? And we don't have any here, but at most stages in churches, you know how they have those artificial plants and trees? We had to cover it so that you couldn't see it. So what you would see is the drummer in between two trees with a bunch of plants in front of him, and you'd see this guy's head, like this. But you couldn't see the drum, so it's like this beat's coming from somewhere. It was just so silly. I don't know kind of what they were afraid of, but it's really funny. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, you just had no, you weren't. You were just. Oh, totally. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Very much so. Anything else before we go on? I want to hear what you're hearing. It's really important. Yeah. 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 Knowing God the way He is. And knowing Him, don't you want to be known for who you are? Again, you want to be represented for the way that you are. Yes. Oh, that's good. Oh, well then that was magnificent. That was good. There's a lot of different things that you can hear, and yeah. Yeah. Totally. That God communicates to me uniquely. He communicates to you uniquely. Do you act the exact same way with just take two of your closest friends or three of them. Put them in your mind, right in front of you. Do you act the same way with each of them? Do you communicate something in the exact same way? So, with one, you can do it with a head nod. With somebody else, you have to say the words. With somebody else, you have to say it 3 times. Yo, John, did you hear what I said? Yeah, something about tonight. A week from tonight, at your house, is the party. It starts at 7. All you have to do is host it. Great. Okay, so what time tomorrow? it has to be, if it's not individual, then you're nothing but a corporate mess or mass. I'm sitting down in my living room in Kansas City, and anybody know a guy named David Roos, worship leader, wrote some wonderful songs. He lived 3 houses down from me at the time. He and I were the worship leaders in Kansas City during the early 90s. He left in 94, and then I stayed on and took over from there. And so I'm sitting in my living room singing a song that he wrote called "We Will Dance on the Streets That Are Golden." Love that song. We will dance on the streets that are golden. Ah, and you get this picture of all these people dancing on golden streets, and there's not just a million, there's a billion people, and they're dancing. And so I'm singing the song, just worshiping in my living room, and my youngest daughter comes down, who's my dancer, and she comes down into the living room. And she sits down next to me, and she's got a beautiful voice, but she harmonizes just perfectly, instantly. No one ever taught her. I never taught her how to harmonize. She just, as soon as she could sing, she would harmonize. And so it was so wonderful. And she's singing this harmony to the song with me, and about, 1 to 2 minutes into it, she gets up and runs to her room. And I'm like, oh, man, that was such a nice father-daughter time. It was so sweet. Come back. And she's probably 12 at the time. And 2 or 3 minutes later, she comes out of her room, and I look up the hall, and she starts coming down, and she has her dance whites on. She's just dressed head to foot. And she's got this veil that's floating in the air, and she starts dancing around the living room as I'm singing, "We Will Dance on the Streets That Are Golden." Now, think about a moment. Here's your daughter dancing unashamed before her dad. I'm like, oh, God. Oh, this is so wonderful. We will dance on the streets that are golden. Oh, 1 billion people are thinking, I don't want 1 billion people. Go away, 1 billion people. I don't want you. I don't want 1 million people. I don't want 1,000 people. I don't want 100 people. I just want to watch one person dance. I want to watch my daughter dance. And the Lord spoke just like that. He said, that's how I feel about you. He goes, I love the multitude, but I love it when you dance, and I love watching you by yourself. I went, oh, thank you. And literally 5 minutes later, Dance With Me was done. The song was written. That's where it came from. Watching my daughter dance, and the Lord saying, would you dance with me? I said, yes, I'll dance with you. So the song really started off as a song for a father watching a daughter dance. And then instantly the Lord turned it into, actually when I first sang it, that first day, he sang it to me. So it was him singing to me, dance with me, O lover of my soul. We sing it back to him, but I wrote it because he sang it to me. We all have a different relationship, and we all then respond according to that relationship. So don't try to be like, someone's up here and they're doing whatever and go, I want that relationship. You can't, people used to come up to Mike Pickle all the time. History, I'll give you a quick history. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm on the other side of the lake, Rochester, New York. That's where I grew up. Little town east of Rochester called Marion, 4,000 people, 5,000 cows. I either milked or helped slaughter half of them. And so I know the difference between a Jersey and a Guernsey and a Holstein, and then you've got your Black Angus, you got your Hereford, and if you want beef. And anyway, I drove tractor when I was 4 years old, so that world is very familiar with me. Moved from there, the Lord told us in 91 to move to Kansas City. Had been going back and forth there for a year or two, and then went in Kansas City in 92, and began leading worship there that year, and took over as the worship pastor with a church there in 94, and then we started the House of Prayer in 99, in April, and then by September of 99, I went 24/7. So it was by September of 99, we were doing 84 two-hour sets per week. That's what a 24-hour House of Prayer is. 84 two-hour sets, each with a worship team and a prayer leader. So I know what it's like to be in a church to struggle to do 1 or 2 hours of prayer as a church. And we're looking at this thing going, are you sure we're going to do this? Yes, Chris, the Lord's with us. Well, I just hope he's with you because I'm tagging along. It's just 84, 2 hours. It's a daunting kind of a thing that's in front of you. And to do a daunting thing takes daunting people, and I didn't feel daunting. I look in a mirror, and it was like, who is this guy I'm 33 in my brain. You'll know what I mean. I look in a mirror, and I'm going, Dad, what are you doing there? He goes, I'm you. No. But you're not thin and dark hair anymore. No, you're not. But he loves you. I know. And my brain still feels 33. So years before I moved to Kansas City, I was sitting at home in that same little living room. And this time my daughter's no longer 12. She's about 4. And she comes up to me and she says, Dad, can I talk to you? Now, when a 4-year-old says, can I talk to you, you know you're not going to get into this long discussion about really anything. 4-year-olds don't talk long. They don't walk straight. You ever watch a little kid walk from here to there? They don't walk from here to there. They go there, 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 then they end up there. And so I go, yeah, sure, honey. So she plops into my arms, and I hold her, and got her head here, and I go, what's up? She goes, well, I just wanted to say hi. I said, well, how was your day? Good. What'd you do? I played with Sarah. She's going like this. I'm thinking, well, why would you want to talk when you're just about to sleep? So I asked her another question, and during that time I was watching her eyes flutter, and then by the time the question was out, she was just gone. I'm thinking, wait a minute, my daughter wants to talk to me. And so she comes to me and gets in my arms to talk to me, and she falls asleep in front of me. So I flipped her over and started to spank her. No, I'm only kidding. I didn't spank her. I'm just kidding. I didn't. Boy, your face, you look like you were going to kill me. No, I didn't spank her. Actually, what I did was I just looked at her face, and I went, oh, you're so beautiful. And I took my fingers, and I put it over her eyes. It's like, oh, look at that. It's like someone painted the back of her eyes blue and green. And then I played with her little eyelashes. And then I went down to her little earlobe and started boxing, And I'm just going, I love that. I love little earlobes. I love those. And I went down to her little fingers. And, kids have these tiny little skinny fingers. And you look at them and you go, you just, like little piece of twig. But you don't, because they trust you. And you hold them. You want to protect every little aspect about them. And then I went down to her feet. I looked at her feet and I go, now there's 2 things that I love to smell in life. One is the head of a little baby. Right? I love the smell of baby heads. And then the feet of little kids who play, especially without their shoes on. Their feet. Oh, man, a 3- and 4- and 5-year-old little kid's feet, that smells so good. Now, that same boy at 13, rancid. Rancid. You know, when they have their lockers for gym, and they open up their gym locker, and their sock is still standing up from the last time they used it, and they have to break it to be able to put it on again? I don't get near those feet. But those little feet, I'm going, I love these little toes. I love these. And then I started chewing on them. And my wife walked into the room. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm chewing on her toes. And my wife, knowing me, she goes, oh, okay. And just walked upstairs. Well, since that time, it's Melissa. Rex knows her. And her nickname from that day on has been Chewie. Not because of Star Wars. No, you can do the Chewbacca sound, but it wasn't Chewbacca. It was Chewie. And now she still calls, when she writes me a card, Happy Father's Day, love Chew. She's either Chew or Chewie. Has been for the last 20-some years. And I call her Chewie, and she has all sorts of nicknames for me. So I have this moment, I pick her up, and I'm chewing her toes, and I put her in bed, and I put the cover on her, and I pray for her, and I put her to sleep. I get to Kansas City. We're about ready to do this house of prayer thing. I'm going, oh, God, this is daunting. Mike is strong, and I am Mike's friend. And we are in this thing together, and he wants me to oversee all the worship. It's 84 two-hour sets a week. But I'm not in charge of them, but I'm just overseeing and fathering, and I started the school of worship that continues now, and so I did that. And it's like, Lord, I don't know if I can do this. I need to be more like Mike. Lord, I do. That's what I need to do. I need to be more like Mike. So, Lord, I know he gets up really early before you do. So, would you help me to get up early and to be like Mike and get up early in the morning? So I went in that night and I set my alarm for just a horrible hour. One that should be enjoyed in the afternoon at that time, but not in the morning. And I set my alarm and I went to bed that night and I'm going, oh God, help me get up. And the alarm goes off and I've never said it before for that time. I did for when I was young. I was a milkman. I got up at 4 every morning. And I delivered milk 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week, I pasteurized it and bottled it. So I know what getting up early is like. It had been a long time since that time, and I was young when that was. So here we are, and I'm going, Lord, help me. And the alarm goes off, and I kill that stupid thing. And then I roll out of bed. My knees hit the floor. And I pull the covers back. I go, okay, my wife's lying asleep over there. I put my head down and said, Lord, good morning. I really hope you're up. Now, I don't have a lot of feeling here, so I'm just going to go off the fact that I know you're worthy, and I'll going to start there. You are. You're really worthy. You're worth everything I have. And 45 minutes later, when I woke up, I lifted my face from the puddle of drool that was there and wiped the drool away and went, oh God, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And I hear this voice like someone was in my room. That's why I said, has anyone heard God audibly? I've heard him audibly about 3 or 4 times. And over in the corner, I hear this voice say, I love your little toes. It had been 5 to 7 years since I said that to my daughter. I had that meant nothing to me. Think back 7 years. Do you remember a phrase you said? Probably not. And I went, what? And then I looked around to see if someone was there. And when my head came back, I heard again from that corner, I love your little toes. And then the picture in my mind of my daughter on my lap with me kissing and hugging and sniffing. And I just remembered, that's what he was. He wasn't out to get me. I could just see up in heaven, Michael, come here. Yes, Lord. Look at Chris. He got up early. Doesn't look like he's going to make it, God. No, you watch what happens. This is really great. You know what's going to happen, don't you? Wait a minute. His breathing has changed. Lord, he's asleep. Michael, put away the sword. But I could kill him now. No. Look at his earlobe. Look at it. He's so cute. See the drool? It's starting to come out of his mouth. He's going to do that for 45 minutes. They'll be like a small pond. Look at the back of his eyes. See that little painting right there? I did that. I painted his eyes when he was in the womb. Cool. Look at his feet, Michael. Yeah. Come here. Smell his toes. No, God, come on. No, I love his toes. I love these little toes. And that's what he did. I go be with him to go do my discipline, and I fall asleep in his presence. And what does he do? What does he want me to get out of that moment? Not what I missed, what he was looking at and how he was looking at me. The rest of my life, from that moment on, I said, I don't want to be like Mike. I want him loving my little toes when I'm awake, when I'm asleep. It doesn't matter anymore. He loves my little toes. So my incentive was not to be like someone or to do something to pass muster. My incentive for anything that has to do with relationship is because I already know that my stinky little feet are loved. And if he loves my stinky little feet, he loves the rest of me. So in that context, we start the house of prayer knowing that I'm not Mike and he's not me. I remember Mike coming to me. He goes, man, I really had to wrestle with something. I said, what was that? He goes, you got up and did an hour worth of worship, and God showed up, and you did healings in the middle of worship, and then it was your time to preach, and you preached, and you gave this great word. And I sat back there going, gosh, I don't even know if they need me. I went, what? Excuse me while I slap you. What are you talking about? He goes, well, I know. I'm totally secure. But I mean, it's just really funny. The Lord said to me, you're not Chris, and Chris isn't you. And I said, can I tell you what happened just this week? He goes, what? And I told him the story about the little toes, because it had just happened. He goes, good. Then we're starting this thing, you being you and me being me. He goes, I can't be like you. You do some funny things. I get in there and I start yelling and get intense. I know. I tried yelling. I lost my voice totally. So I can't do it because I also have to lead worship. So he goes, okay, this is great. You're you, I'm me, let's go. So that's 1998, 97, 98. We were going to do we had been a part of the Vineyard movement. We had left. We thought that maybe the Lord was going to have us do another kind of church movement. He said, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do a house of prayer. For those that are, how many have, well, I don't know if you have to or not. Are you here? I know there's a house of prayer here. Is that something that you're a part of on a regular basis, the house of prayer here? Okay. Wow. There was a lot of meaning behind those different statements. So I won't even go into that. 'Cause, we were having prayer meetings years ago. We wanted to label them something because we felt that every prayer meeting that we had 3 a day. Starting in 1983, 3 prayer meetings a day, one at 6 in the morning, one at 10 in the morning, or 10:30. We had one from 10:30 to 12. They're all hour and a half back then. And another one at 6 at night. And with every prayer meeting, we had to have a worship leader. We wanted to have prophetic singers and someone to do the prayer leading. And so we went in Revelation 5:8, when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song saying, you are worthy to take, and it goes on and on. And so we combined those 2 concepts of the harp being worship and the bowl, which are the prayers of the saints. So we just began to call it harp and bowl. So it wasn't anything, kind of unique. It was just kind of simply spoken out of here. Now it's this whole concept of harp and bowl worship and what is it not, and you know what's really bizarre is watching now prayer movements come up and houses of prayer come up competing against another house of prayer in the city. It's like, where did that happen? What's this a competition for? You want the most hours? Go for it. I remember when after we started, went 24 hours. I'll tell you this. We had about 10 different churches vying to be the first church in America, besides the Kansas City, what was going on there, to be the first church that went 24/7. So they would come, and they kept trying to pull people from where we were, and they kept trying to do it because they wanted to be the second 24-hour prayer furnace, and they competed against each other. Two of them were in the same city, and they were fighting against each other to see who could do the most prayer. Guess how many of them are doing 24-hour prayer? Yeah, you got it. 0. God did something unique when he did that, whatever he was doing in Kansas City. It set a template about something. There's a statement to be made. It's not an expression just to be copied. It's the same thing as trying to copy someone else's relationship with God. People used to come to Mike all the time, say, would you lay hands on me and give me what you have in God? You go, no offense, but that's kind of stupid. I don't mean to offend you, but I can't give you my relationship. I can pray that God increases passion in your heart, but you have to have your own relationship with Him. You can't somehow symbiotically get mine. And that's what happened with the 10 virgins. Five that had extra oil, 5 that didn't. And when it came time at the end, they said, may I have some of your oil? He's coming. I need some of your oil. They're going, no. And at first I thought, you snippy little virgins. You selfish little women. Just share some of your oil. But the concept that's greater in there is this. The oil is what keeps us going alive in God. I can't share my relationship and make it yours. They had to go get their own oil in God. You can't have, whoever's teaching, whoever's doing what, and whoever you look around, they're spiritual people, you can desire to want to go to where they're at, and that's a good thing. When Paul's talking to Timothy, he says, it's good that a man desires the office of a bishop. Why? So he can have power and authority because he has a position? No. Because the rest of the chapter talks about the qualifications for that person. That's what Paul's after. It's good that you want to be that because this means you have to be this kind of a person. It's not the office, it's the personhood. And the same thing is true. So, in Isaiah 56:7, and I am sure you have, if you're a part here and you've gotten any of the teachings, this is not going to be radically new as I get started. Hopefully there'll be something that's encouraging and fresh for your own heart. But in verse 7, it says, I will bring them to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Isaiah 56:7. I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. Again, I don't know about you, but when I think of the things that bring me great joy growing up in the Lord, prayer was not one of them. I'm sorry. Someone just lifted their head and went, I'm now so disappointed in you. Okay, I have friends who can't wait to get alone time and get on their knees and start praying. And they're like, wow, I am such an evil person. I pray daily. I take moments, I take good chunks of time. But it's not, it's not the thing that pulls me. Give me a guitar, put me in a corner, and just say, just play. And I'll play for 5 minutes or 5 hours. There's something, that comes out of that. And then prayer will come out of that, and worship will come out. But just this kind of, as Mike used to call it, rock pile prayer. Oh, God, in Jesus' name, I just come and bring before you my friends. I'm praying for 42 today. Okay, I bring John to just at the end of it, you're, I'm exhausted. What'd you do? Prayed. Really? Oh, yeah, it was hard. I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. I got saved at 19. My hair was down to here. I got out of this drug culture. I get into this church. Jesus movement's going on. Worship's going on. And then they're going to have a prayer meeting. Chris, you got to come to our prayer meeting. Okay, come to the prayer meeting. Microphone on a stand up front. Okay, now when it's your turn to pray, just come on right up here. Just go ahead. Just when you're anytime. 5, 10 minutes goes by. And then the one guy I know, a guy named Paul. Paul's 8, 10 years older than I am, late 20s, maybe 30 years old, but a good guy, normal guy. He talked like this. Hi, my name is Paul, and your name is? Jimmy. Good to meet you, Jimmy. And he had a normal voice until he got to the microphone. And then Paul comes, I see Paul walking up front. Oh, okay, good. Prayer meeting. Let's see what happens. Oh, Father, I thank thee for thy goodness. I go, what? What happened to Paul? Where'd he go? Oh, God, the God of creation, the God of all, who was and is to come. I'm going, no. I saw you on TV. What do I do with this? That's my friend Paul. He's normal, but now he's not. And he gets done in Jesus' holy name. And they all said, Amen. Puts it back, walks back to him. Hi, Chris. I'm going, no. And then this lady who is older than dirt gets up. And she comes up front. And I'd never heard her speak. Well, not all dirt, but just most dirt. And so the microphone's up here, and she's this tiny little lady. So she tries to fiddle with the stand. You know, it's people that they don't know how to work a mic stand. And finally, somebody comes up and rescues her and pulls it down. Thank you. And I'm ready. This is going to be good. Jesus! And she screams out this, and she screams this prayer. At least Paul's had a little bit of opera to it. Hers was just screaming. These are my first 2 expressions of corporate prayer. I'm going, I don't like this. I don't think I'll ever pray. Not publicly, at least. Privately, I'll pray while I'm driving and walking and by my bed maybe, but I'm not going to do this stuff. And so, to me, you know, we would have these prayer meetings, and every prayer meeting was the same. Have you ever noticed that people that go to prayer meetings to pray are the same people that pray at the next prayer meeting? And people that go to prayer meetings and never pray are the people that always come back to the prayer meetings but never pray? Isn't that funny? Why is that? Well, I like my spot. No, you like your chair and your position because you're hiding. Come on out now. Come out and play. Come out and pray. But so I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. So I'm like, well, what brings joy? I'll tell you what brings joy is when your spirit is alive. When I'm not trying to be anybody else but who I am. And so we just said, Lord, we want to create an atmosphere where worship is free. Where the expressions of worship are free. So when we started our prayer meetings, we always had not just a worship leader, but 1, 2, or 3 singers who could sing prophetically. And so when we started the house of prayer, a year before we started the house of prayer, we said, this is what we're going to do. We are going to train singers to sing prophetically so that we can go back and forth. There's a term called antiphonal. I'm sure you're very familiar with it if you're here. Antiphonal singing. But actually the germination of that came, if you go back, you can sing and read. Don't just read, but do a study in Nehemiah. It talks about the choirs. There's a large choir and a small choir. And actually, this is what it looked like. You had the Ark of the Covenant in the middle of the Tabernacle of David. You had a leader on this side, small choir, 2 small choirs, and then behind them, the large choir. And they call the large choir a few different things. I'm not going to go into it now. You can do your own research. It's kind of fun. What would happen is the singer, the lead, 2 guys, they would sing, and he would sing across the presence to the small choir. The small choir would then sing across the presence to the large choir, and then by that time, everybody has it, and the whole room begins to sing. And then he sings to the small choir, and then the small choir sings to the large choir, and then that would become the new song. Isn't that cool? And so that was just called antiphonal singing, which is just basically you're bouncing off someone else. It's back and forth. Antiphonal just means, it's kind of like tennis. It just means back and forth and back and forth. And so what we decided to do was was to train singers first before we train worship leaders. Because anybody could get up. We had a number of people who could at least get up and start a song and sing a song. Or they could at least play a song. But people to actually sing out prophetically and continue on with what's going on, and then get the now, the pulse of what the Lord is saying and speaking and wanting to sing, we had to find people that could sing prophetically. But here's the deal. People back then, I'm just giving you a little history. Back then, have you ever heard of a gal named Joy McFadder? Okay, Joy McFadder is a wonderful prophetic singer. She was on my worship team in Kansas City. Ever hear of a girl named Julie Meyer? Okay, Julie was also on my team. I had a good team. And so when they sang, they didn't sing, and he loves you so much. They sang, and he loves you so much because, and they would just go on and on, and 2 and 3 minutes would go by, and 4 minutes would go by, and 5 minutes would go by, and you're going, oh my gosh, how do they do that? I mean, it's one thing to sing out a prophetic song that lasts 10 seconds. It's another thing to sing out a prophetic song that lasts 7 minutes. And we realize that unique gifting won't work in a house of prayer as the regular basis of prophetic singing. Because, let me tell you, when you have a group of people and you're all together and one person is singing for 7 minutes, as a worship leader, I'd look out and I'd watch people, and they'd go, minute 2, minute 4, minute 5, minute 6, and you're picking up the drool at minute 7. It was hard to stay connected. And so what we decided was, in this great moment of prayer that Mike and I had in the back room, we looked and said, the long songs aren't working. What a revelation. He said, we got to really shorten it up. So we looked at each other, how short should it be? And he goes, 5 seconds. I said, you're trying to wean people from 5 minutes to 5 seconds? He goes, well, if they can't say it in 5 seconds, they can't say it. I said, well, let's try 5 to 15 seconds. Let's at least give them a little time to say something. He says, okay. So when we went back to the singers, we got them all together. We said, this is what we're going to do. I want you to sing me a prophetic song in 10 seconds. And we're going to go around the room, and everyone's going to take the microphone one at a time. I'm going to play a chord progression, and you sing for 10 seconds. At the end of 10 seconds, I'm going to say, stop, and give the microphone to the next person. You know how many I had to say stop to? Everybody. Oh, the Lord would say to you, stop. Here's what happened. When they knew that they had to say more in less time, they went back to their Bible and became Bible scholars. And that was the whole point. Because if you sing, I remember Julie the first time, Julie singing. Mike comes to me later and goes, could you have Julie stop singing? Now, this is nothing, I could give this recording to Julie and Mike, and we're all in agreement. This is what happened. Why? Because her songs. What about her songs? Well, every time she starts to sing, it's about somebody twirling. Lord, as I come before you, I want to twirl. He goes, I don't want songs about twirling. I want theology. I want the house of prayer to be filled with fun theology. I want it to be a joyful room with theology of the grace and nature of God. And God just doesn't come every time and twirl. So, talk to Julie. Well, if you listen to Julie sing now, she's like a Bible scholar. She knows the word inside and out. And the whole point was to have these wonderful singers know the word, so what's coming out is not just experiential, but it's experience married to concrete Bible theology. And so if you're a singer and you just like trite phrases, good. Let that be a springboard for something more. Don't be satisfied with somebody else's words and somebody else's theology. Don't be satisfied with just rhyming something. I have this really wonderful ability to rhyme every time I sing out in the house of prayer. Really? And now I went up to the top of the hill, and I stayed with him still. And see? Wow. That was deep. Now, instead of working so hard to rhyme meaningless thoughts, no, I wouldn't say that. I would just want to encourage them. That's great. That's great. Keep singing. Keep singing. As a matter of fact, the first time Julie ever sang prophetically. Oh, this is great. And the Lord would say, oh, he's disappointed in you. You're like the sheep that ran away. Oh, his heart was broken. So you're looking kind of like, I don't know what Mike's going to do with that one. Julie, keep going. Awesome job. Keep singing. Wow, beautiful voice. Really, God bless you. Keep going. He could have stopped her right there. Julie, don't ever sing again. He did stop her later on, but he really wanted her to just sing more of the Word of God as opposed to trite phrases. I want to encourage you, if you're a writer, if you're a singer, don't be satisfied with something just because it ekes out a rhyme or it says a little phrase that's cute that you remember. Those are all good. And probably every song has something that's, Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun, so we're not going to create anything new in a sense. But you can help your spirit to create a new depth in God if you let yourself go there. Does that make sense? Thank you, both of you. The prayer itself, in terms of a house of prayer. Okay, what do we do with a house of prayer? We have people that come in, and this is what happened. People come up to the microphone, and they would go, Lord, and I pray for my dog. And you know what? That's valid. I have a dog. People have animals, and they love their animals. People have different things. But in a corporate kind of a house of prayer, we wanted to steer away from particular petitions to God as opposed to seeking the face of God. So what you'd have to do, you'd have to just figure out as you gathered together, the purpose that we had. We weren't petition driven as much as we were pursuit driven. We wanted to be pursuit driven, because petition is just you can line up 50 people, 10 things, and now you have 500 prayer requests before the time is over with. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you're pursuit driven, and in the middle, in about the 17th minute, God shows up in a unique, wondrous way, and all the petitions that you were going to bring before him, he hears them and begins to answer them, and you haven't said a word. And so the presence of God as opposed to petitions thrown at God. And so we just encourage people to do this. Petitions, individual petitions, you have your whole life, you have all this time, pray. When you come together corporately, let's pursue the face of God corporately. And then God may highlight individual petitions, but we don't want to be and put energy into a kind of a house of prayer that's about. I don't want me to be the focus of a house of prayer. Ugh. I want the face of God to be the pursuit. How many here would consider themselves, that it's going to be School of Ministry folks here in this one, because you have the house of prayer over here, but others that are involved too in a house of prayer. How many are more on the prayer side than are on the worship side? How many? Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many are on more of the worship end of things? Okay, that leaves about half the group. Interesting. One of the things that there's reasons I don't want to go down that particular road right now, because then we have to highlight people and reasons why, and that's never productive. But one of the funny things that happened in the house of prayer right after it started was a spirit of comparison and competition that entered. And I'm sure it only happened in Kansas City. And it wouldn't happen here because you're a very spiritual school of ministry people or people that came from miles away because of the spirituality that you have in your own lives, especially if you're from England. I mean, he's not God, he's God. And even just his name sounds better with a British accent. But in Kansas City, where we were in the central part of the... That's okay, you must be Canadian. No, you're all British. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean not sorry, but I mean... It's not what I meant. So we began to see the spirit of competition, and we watched singers try to outdo the other singer. Go ahead. It's like, oh my gosh, what are we creating? We've created this monster. And so we just had to keep going back to them and saying, hey, this is not about you looking good. This is about God looking good. The whole idea here is, you know what? You can pray at home. You can worship at home. What's the purpose of a house of prayer? There's something, if it's in the heart of God to want to gather people, because there's something in God's heart. So what I want to do, we want to get together, we want to worship Him, we want to hear His heart so we can pray what's on His heart. It's real simple. It's not to create something that's better than something else. It's not to do a song that's better than somebody else's song. It's not to be more anointed than the other person's anointed. There's no competition. We're all in this thing together. And I remember when we started in the house of prayer, there was this little gal that used to sit in the back. She'd come into my class, and she'd sit in the back. She's very quiet. And people would they'd answer and talk and respond. She never said a word. Never said a word. We start the house of prayer, and I hear that she is doing the midnight to 6 a.m. shift on one of the teams. And I hear that she's got actually kind of a quirky little sweet voice. So I go in about 2 o'clock in the morning and sit in the back and listen to her. I go, that's interesting. So I try to pull her into the day because I just think that there's more there. She goes, no, I don't want to do the day shift. There's too much pressure. There's too many people. At night, there's nobody here. I'm singing to, look out. There's nobody here. There's you and that couple that always come because he works trick work, and then there's either an old man or an old lady. There's 5 or 10 people max, and I'm fine in this arena. So I go to Mike and I say, I want her on the day, and I want her on my team. And she can say no to me. And she can say no to you, but I know she won't say no to you. So Mike goes, finds her, and says, Chris wants you on his team, and if Chris wants it, go for it. So she leaves the night watch, comes on my team, and now she's situated. Here's Joy McFadder. She's in the middle, and Julie Myers on this side. So I had to get rid of Joanne because it was just too intense. It's like, you're trying to sing, and you've got these powerhouse singers there. And so she wouldn't sing out prophetically. So I would then point to her, and I would say into the microphone, okay, ready? Sing, 2, 3, 4. And everybody heard me point to her, and the other singers would then all back up. And I told them, when I point to her, everyone's back up. So there's only one person on the mic. So we had 4 singers by this time, 3 girls or 3 people step back like this. And there she is stuck on the mic. And I've already said sing and pointed. And so anywhere from 100 to 700 people heard me say sing. So now she has to sing. Now I know that it's in there. I had prophetic worship class that I taught, and day one, I said, how many are convinced that you probably will never sing prophetically? All these hands went up. And this girl's hand went like this, and I saw a tear come down her cheek. And I said, sweetie, you think you'll never sing prophetically? She goes, no, I can't do it. I said, really? Come up here and pray with me. So she comes up and puts both hands, we're praying like this. I said, do me a favor, just close your eyes. And I had somebody get on guitar. I said, just play a chord progression. I said, just sing with me. Everybody just sing. And so she starts singing because everyone started singing, and her voice was drowned out. And I just put my finger up and I went. And everyone brought their voice down, and she kept singing. And she went from singing the song to just singing this little thing, whatever she was singing. And then she went into a prophetic song for the entire room. And I let go, and she kept singing. And it got bolder and louder, and it was one of the most anointed songs I ever heard. And she got all done. She went, and she just broke down. I said, that wasn't very hard, was it? She said, no. And so she became one of the major prophetic singers in the House of Prayer for the first 3 years. I can't do this. I can't. Why? Well, because so-and-so, what does what you have to do with somebody else? If God gave you a gift, he didn't go, now I'm going to give it to Harriet. But Harriet has to go through Adele. No. It's just. So this little gal finally, I point at her and she starts singing. Well, in the night, she played keyboard. Well, I wanted her to play keyboard. So I told my keyboard player, Julie Myers played keyboard, and there was another guy named Greg Stone, and they both played keyboard for me. So I did it twice. I told them each, I want you to get sick 30 minutes into the set. Now, Greg was great. When he got sick, and he did a great job of acting sick. I mean, he was Ferris Bueller. He was like, oh no, here, go to bed. You know. And so, but Julie, when she did it, he was the most pathetic sick I ever saw. But both times they said, I can't play. I got to go. And I said, okay. And I turned over to her and I said, you got to come play for me. She goes, I can't play. I said, there's 200 people watching you say I can't play. I said, you can play because I've heard you play. Because I don't know the chords. I said, what were the things you were playing before? Notes. The thing is, when you put notes together, they actually make chords. That's what you just didn't know what you were playing. So she comes down and she's like, and she's playing staccato with nothing. But after about 10, 15 minutes, she's playing, she's into it. And I do it again another time, a couple weeks later. She does it again. So I put her in as one of my 3 keyboard players. And she's now on my team for a year and a half. She's now doing all the conferences. She is bold as a lion. And I just turned to her and I said, Misty, it's time for your own team. She goes, okay. So Misty takes my team. I said, they're yours? I can find another one real easy. So she takes his team, and Misty does what Misty does. Here's the thing. The fear of exposure, the fear of singing, gripped her heart so deeply that she hid away and sang really mostly from 2 to 4 in the morning. When's the least amount of time during the day when anyone's going to be at the house of prayer? Between 2 and 4 in the morning. And she knew that, and so she changed her entire schedule because of a spirit of fear. Has anybody ever been to something where Misty's led worship? Okay. Anybody ever heard her lead worship? Do you see fear on her? No. No, she bit that head off that puppy. It's gone. It's dead. So I was back in Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving? No, it was back in March. I came back to speak at a YWAM in Kansas City. And said, hey, come on back. I want you to meet my team. So I went back and meet the whole team and said, this is the guy that got me going. And I said, Misty, I have to tell you a story that you don't even know. Guys, do you mind if I tell you a story about Misty that she doesn't even know? Yeah. I said, Misty, remember when Greg and Julie used to play keyboard? Uh-huh. Remember when they got sick? And you had to come and, yeah, I hated that day. They didn't really get sick. I told them to get sick so that you would play keyboard because you were just afraid. And the whole team looked at her and goes, she was afraid? I said, I pulled her out of the night watch to do the day because she was afraid of singing in front of people. And they looked at me like I was an idiot. And I said, how many of you deal with fear right now? Every hand went up. And they're all on Misty's team. You know what? Let me tell you that. We're all in this thing together. You know what a house of prayer is? It really is nothing more than people gathered together in their little fears and quirks and idiosyncrasies, and you do this then that way, and I do this way. And it's a way for God to train us to become whole in Him. That's really what it is. It's not to create the greatest house of prayer. It's not that, if it is, then get out of it, because your motive is wrong. After a while, I began to see, kind of as a dad in that world, I spoke more about heart issues than I ever had to deal with technical issues about harp and bowl. You know, I can train all of you in 15 minutes in harp and bowl. It's really not that hard. Probably 5 minutes. It's not that tough. You know what the hard part was? Every year people would come, especially the first and second year. And I go, okay, matter of fact, do this right now. Take a pen or something that you can put it in your hand like this. Put your hand out like this. Okay? Everybody got something? All right. Now, what I would do is people would come in every year. Actually, it was every 6 months. I'd say, okay, now, this right here, this is your ministry in the house of prayer. This is you. Set it there. Okay? Now, close your hand around it. Can God get to it? Yeah, but He'd have to break your hand. Okay? Oh, now open it back up. I said, this is a microcosm of the house of prayer. This is your life. This is what your life is like. Hold what you're doing open so that at any point in time, God can come along and say, oh, Chris, you're doing a great job, great job, great job, great job. By the way, move to Nashville. What? What? I've got the primo job on the earth. This is great. I know. You're done. What? Yeah. Don't overstay. You know, when things overstay, they smell. It's like fish out of the refrigerator. 3 days later, it stinks. I'm telling you to go. Oh, but Lord. So I told everybody this. This is what's going to happen. This is what I would say. Right now, 5 years from now, most of you will not be doing what you're doing in the house of prayer right now. No, don't say that. Yes, that's the fact. Most of you will not be doing what you're doing. So I'm talking about house of prayer, but I'm just talking about life. But this is what I would say. So here's what happened. Right now, that particular ministry, okay, somebody in Florida is being trained to take your place in 18 months. You don't know them. You've never met them. Nobody here knows them. But in 7 months, the Lord's going to bring them here. In about another 8 to 10 months after that, they're going to be all ready, and your position is going to be theirs. And God's going to say, do I still have permission to take that time and that thing and give them that? Or are you going to hold on to it? And every 6 months, everybody on the team, we would do this. We would go, hey, put something in your hand. Who's got control of it? Is it still yours or is it God's? It was a wonderful thing to do, because what happened in the first year was suddenly a flock of people came. And all the people that helped start the house of prayer, a year later, half of them were doing something different besides leading worship. But does God have permission to move you and do what He wants? Or is the house of prayer or anything that you do, is it about what you do as opposed to who you're becoming in Christ? And that really, I seriously, as a dad, I had 10 to 1 heart issues of competition, selfishness, wanting other people to fail so that they would look good. I mean, I had people cursing other people in the house of prayer. Singers cursing another singer. I hope their throat just dries up. Excuse me? Well, they sing. No. What it is you want something, they're gifted at, and you want to remove that from them? You can't. You got to go apologize. I did more heart issue stuff than I ever had to do with, by the way, when we get to this part in worship in the Word, can you extend this a little bit long? Worship and prayer leader, would you do, you have to do those things. But the other things are that's the 5 foolish virgins. That's the oil that they never decided to go after. But the wise ones, and there's 2 ways to get oil. Oil's in the ground, you dig for it, or oil's in a sunflower seed, you crush it. It's just going through life. Through the crushings of life, you find the goodness of God. You find that it's not all the things that I thought I needed to give me life. He's the one that gives me life. And then to be able to dig and go after and go deeper and let your roots be rooted and grounded in who He is. And so I know you might have been looking for some aspect of technicality in a house of prayer. And we can do that kind of thing. But most of you are already doing it. It's just worship and intercession being mingled however it works for that particular group. Every group does it differently. Every group should do it differently. Don't go to Kansas City, memorize how they do it, and then try to do it. Yuck. It's like going to someone's house, watching how they have dinner, and then going home. Now, this is how the Browns do it. We sit here, I'll sit at the end here, and now we're going to talk, how was your day today? Blah. I don't want someone's life. I want the life that He has for my life. And you should want that too. So do me a favor. Time to go. But just put your hand on your heart for a second. Lord, I just thank You for each one here. And You say that in Song of Solomon that we seek the one that we love. I seek the one I love. Lord, let our affections be upon You so that our seeking is towards You. And I pray that we would be a people where we're not just petition-driven, but we are pursuit-driven in who You are. I just bless this group, and I just pray for more life and more revelation of the knowledge of the affections of the Son of God to their heart in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Good.